With the crypto market and especially altcoins getting absolutely smoked last night, the big question is, WTF just happened? So this is just a quick emergency update to cover what the hell just happened in the crypto market, what triggered this massive liquidation event, why this was the biggest liquidation event in history, and then my plan on navigating this storm. So first up, let's just talk about what happened. What we have is a perfect storm. You see, going into Q4, market sentiment was that crypto was about to go absolutely parabolic for the remainder of this year. Q4 being the best quarter of the last 4 years. So everybody's feeling super bullish. There'll be a ton of people using leverage to try to maximize this final part of the cycle. Even my last video was that based on previous cycles, we should be seeing a breakout coming at any time, so optimism was at the absolute max, as too was the leverage. However, the trigger is that Donald Trump suddenly came out and said China has taken an extraordinarily aggressive position on trade, sending a letter that they're going to be imposing large-scale export controls. So basically, Trump has said in retaliation, starting November the 1st, they're going to be putting a 100% tariff on China, and this is above any tariff that's what's currently in place. So a massive move from Donald Trump. This was the trigger, causing massive sell-off in the market. So, how big was this liquidation? Well, now for comparison, the COVID liquidation to the crypto market was about 1.2 billion. FTX, the big FTX meltdown, was a 1.6 billion liquidation, and what literally just happened last night was almost 20 billion in liquidations. So as you can see, this is unprecedented. It's a massive, biggest in history liquidation event. That is essentially what's just happened. So jumping into the charts, this is Bitcoin, and Bitcoin had a nice, about a 10% drop, which all in all is not too bad. And I think the major line in the sand is still this $100,000 level. This is the key level. If it breaks this, then I think there's a good chance that the cycle could be over. However, as long as it stays above 100,000, I am personally still optimistic. And as you can see, it only came down to about 109. So yes, there was a major sell-off in Bitcoin, but that wasn't too bad. But check out the altcoins. Altcoins got absolutely crushed. So now Ethereum top to bottom after setting its high, that's a good 30% drop. However, some of the alts like Dogecoin, just check out the cascading liquidation event. Now, anyone who is able to have buy orders set and were to pick up anything down here obviously got an amazing once in a lifetime price. Solana actually fared quite well. Sui got absolutely smoked. And so all this says to me is that there's one big question that needs answering. And the big question for me is this cycle now over? Because if the cycle is over, it's a completely different plan to whether this was just a crazy liquidation event and Q4 hasn't yet started. Now, ultimately, no one knows whether the cycle was over. In 2021, the top actually came when measured from the halving next week. So there is a possibility that the cycle is over. However, for me, because we're still early in Q4, it's still really, we've only just gone by the first week. So It's all probabilities, and my best guess is that because we're so close to the beginning of Q4, the cycle is probably not yet over, in which case this has just been an absolutely amazing buying opportunity. Now, in a recent video, I'd explained that I had built a large Bitcoin position, deciding to play defensive. And so, because I personally believe that we are going to get a recovery, I essentially converted 80% of this into SUI, switching from playing defensive to now playing aggressive. Now, obviously, if we do get a recovery, this is going to be an amazing move by me. However, if the cycle is over, then this is extremely high risk and the potential to make massive losses. So please, this is not something to copy or emulate. I'm just being fully transparent. However, when we get the largest liquidation event in history, in my head, it says buying opportunity. Okay, so that was just a quick emergency update on what the hell had happened, what the trigger was, why this was the biggest liquidation event in history, and why, for me, it's a massive buying opportunity. However, I certainly could be wrong, so be sure to do what's right for you.